Good morning. It is 10 o'clock and welcome to Lincoln Ware Live. Of course, we're here every Sunday morning from 10 until 11. And of course, as usual, we've got a great lineup for you today. The first half of the show, we're going to talk about something that we can't say too much about. I mean, we can't talk about it enough. And that's lead poisoning in your home, in your apartment, how to spot it, how to get rid of it. And if your landlord doesn't have enough money to pay to get rid of it, we've got grants that'll help your landlord get rid of the lead paint in your home. We'll talk about that. Then on the second half of the show, you know, everybody's laying off. Jobs are hard to find. I'm going to tell you about 1,000 jobs, up to 1,000 jobs that will be available right here in the Cincinnati area. Oh, yeah. We'll tell you about that on the second half of the show. So you want to make sure you stay around for that. Yeah, jobs, 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 and more jobs. Yeah, and it's with the federal government, too. So we'll talk about that coming up in just a few minutes. So right now we've got my good friends Charlotte Kleinhaus and Cythia McCarthy from the Health Department, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
Back once again, and of course we've talked about lead poisoning in the home, and I tell you, it's just so important that if you've got it in your home, you need to get your kids out of its environment, and you got to do something about that because it could affect a child for the rest of their life.
It does. The damage it does is permanent.
Now, I know you mentioned something about grants for low income, for landlords who can't afford to come in and get rid of the lead paint, or if they've got low income tenants there are grants available to landlords. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's yours.
Yes, we've got a new HUD grant program we're very excited about. It is for low-income homeowners and landlords. What we mean by low income is 80% of the area median income, which is actually higher than you might think. So this is for the person occupying the house, so either a low-income tenant or a low-income owner-occupied house. They qualify for up to $8,000 per unit, so a two-family could qualify for $16,000, and licensed lead abatement contractors will come in and take care of the problem. We have a secondary program, we're calling it the rebate program, where families who have not had a lead-poisoned child yet in their home can proactively get the work done or do the work under certain circumstances and then be reimbursed up to $5,000. And we're very excited about that proactive aspect.
And is this for landlords and tenants within the Cincinnati area?
Yes, City of Cincinnati.
Cincinnati,
yes.
Okay. And they need to call the Health Department to get that information?
Yes.
Okay, what's that number?
That's 357-7420. And they can call that number for just about anything regarding lead poisoning, and we'll refer them to someone who can answer their questions.
All right, we'll take a quick break, then we'll come back and tell you how to spot if you've got lead paint in your home, how to spot lead poisoning in your children. We'll tell you all about that, what to look for, and things like that when we take this break, and then when we come back right here on Lincoln Ware Live. Back in a moment. We are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program, and we're talking lead paint. We've got the Cincinnati Health Department with us today. Now, I've often wondered, you know, you talk about, you know, lead dust and paint chips and kids putting them in their mouths, and, you know, what happens to a kid when they get lead poisoning? What happened? I mean, they don't just pass out and,
no.
And you know, what happens to them?
It's a very subtle problem. Most of the time, the lead paint gets chipped off and it gets into the house dust. People walk across it. It turns to powder when you know, crackles up, and it's in the dust. Children crawl across the floor, and then they put their hands in their mouths. Every child you've ever seen who's between, say, 7 or 8 months and 3 years old puts their fingers in their mouth. When they're crawling on the floor, they sit up, they put their hands in their mouths. They're being poisoned right then. Most of the time, you're not going to be able to tell. The symptoms are very subtle, but if you look back at a child, there's irritability, there's sometimes it's as severe as hearing loss, but there's a lot of things that go wrong, particularly in the nervous system. There's attention deficit disorder links to it. As the child gets older, if the poisoning has been severe enough, there's violence. that is something they cannot seem to control. Sometimes it's as young as, preschool and kindergarten, where they're slapping and biting and kicking and punching other kids. Sometimes it doesn't show up until they're in their young teens. And think about it, when was the last time you knew about a 14-year-old who picked up a gun?
Right.
So this kind of stuff, it has a long life in that child, and once it's in there, it's in there. It doesn't, it does its damage, and the damage is permanent.
Now, what about back in the 50s, when we know there was lead paint in, I can remember back in the 50s when I used to look out the window and there were, the paint right there by the windowsill and everything. And it was, I can remember just taking my thumb,
And picking at it.
Picking at it.
And
I can remember that.
People think that kids eat lead chips. They just tear them off the wall and put them in their mouth. No, they don't.
I was just picking at the chip.
Right. It's like the rest of us pick at sunburned skin. You just keep picking at it until the skin's all off. Well, that's what they do. They're picking at it. But small amounts get into the ridges of their skin, in the cuticles, under the nails, and they put their fingers in their mouths. They put their fingers in their mouths. Most kids do that. It's how they learn what the world is about. That's how it comes in. And the problem that people think they're just picking that and eating it, it does have a sweet taste, to my understanding. I haven't done this, but in the 50s, the paint was fresh on the wall, or fresh on the woodwork, around the windowsills, around the stairwells and the doors. The problem is now that's old paint, and it's flaking and chipping off. It was put into paint because it was difficult to, it didn't, it resisted mold, it resisted sun blistering. But in the 50s, the kids that were in poorer houses weren't painted at all. Lead-based paint was something you did that was an expensive thing.
Okay.
It lasted a long time. Now it's old paint, and that's the problem.
Now, if you have chips in your home and you want to make sure they're not lead chips, they can bring them in and have them tested.
Oh yeah, we've got this fabulous device. It's an X-ray gun. This is what we bring in for inspections, and we only bring it into inspections when there's a child who's already lead poisoned.
Pull that up a little bit so people can see it. Okay, go ahead.
This can tell immediately, within a matter of seconds. And what we can do for people who don't already have a lead poisoned child who would like to be proactive, they can bring a paint chip into our office at Bernadette and King, 3101 Bernadette Avenue. And we like to have a sample about the size of a quarter. And we can actually take a measurement right then and let them know whether that paint chip is positive for lead or not. And then they can handle the paint accordingly. What we recommend, though, for people who can't do that, is that they just assume the paint is lead-based paint. Because the housing in Cincinnati, 93% of the housing is older than 1978, which is when lead-based paint stopped being produced and sold for retail use.
And especially down in the over-the-Rhine area, and that area, with a lot of the rehab houses going on. And it's just, people need to pay more attention. Like you say, attention deficit disorder. Many kids are diagnosed with that nowadays, and it could be traced back to lead paint.
It's possible. There's another source, too, that we haven't touched on yet, is the use of leaded gasolines. That was phased out in the 1990s. But the lead that went into the gas tank went through the engine and then out the exhaust as a fume, and it settled. So in the very highly urban areas like Cincinnati and near all the highways, there's actually a layer of dust in the soil from the lead fumes from those cars. And the ambient dust levels in the urban areas is quite high, just the outside dust. So that's why it's so important for everyone to really keep after their dusting. Dust the windowsills and the window troughs really weekly, I'd say, if not more, when you've got small children.
We have a pamphlet that the health department puts out. This one comes from the Ohio Department of Health, and it's step-by-step cleaning to control lead dust in your home. It's available for free. I usually take this to places like daycare places and child care places, Head Starts, preschools, for it to go home with the child's backpack, because if a parent knows that that they're living in a house that was built before 1978, that you ought to assume it is, and how to keep that child free of this problem. Prevention is what really works. It's so cheap to do prevention. It's much more expensive to figure out the problem and treat it afterwards.
Yes. All right, the phone number 513-381-3838 or 651-3838. 513 is the area code. If you got questions about lead paint or how you can have your paint tested, children, if you want to get their blood, want to get them a blood test or anything, you do that at the health department also?
We have a free testing coming up that I think the guys are going to put on your graphic. If you live anywhere in Hamilton County, it's going to be November 14th and again November 21st. Those are both Friday mornings from 8 to noon. This is sponsored by the Hamilton County Lead Poisoning Prevention Collaborative. That's a group of agencies, lots of different agencies that come together to try to reduce the poisoning in children. So they're sponsoring a testing, and it's not difficult. It's a blood lead test. It's going to be just a tiny finger stick, and the whole thing is free. Families that bring in a child are eligible for a Kroger gift card if they bring in a child. So those things that will be up on the graphic, I think. And the fact that if your pediatrician hasn't gotten that test done for you and your child is between 9 months and 36 months, do it. It's an important thing to do for your child.
Yes. All right, let's go to the telephones. 513-381-3838, and let's go to Carol. Carol, you have a question. How are you?
Well, I just kind of want to relay a little bit of my thoughts and ideas. First of all, I'm excited to see that you're actually talking about lead paint again. My son was originally tested. They had a program. My son is 36. When he was 4 years old, he was tested at high lead levels, and nobody did anything about it back then. They have never really done anything. Years later, I used to investigate serious injury cases, and I got lead-based paint cases from all over the country where people were filing lawsuits. I think one of the problems was that abatement is voluntary. We knew a long time ago that lead harmed our children, but there were no laws to protect anyone. Well, there were maybe laws, but it was all voluntary. So I guess my question is there something that's less than voluntary for these people who own these buildings, who know they have paint, that's killing our children or harming our children? Is there something more than saying, oh, gee, I have lead paint, I think I'll go spend the money and take it, because nobody does that.
Now, before
is there
she answers
something
that
to compel
question,
them to do it now?
Before she answers that question, let me ask you a question. How is your son? Did he have any problems, any issues?
You know what, all of a sudden I can't hear you.
Did your son have any problems, any issues,
Well, I really don't know. I mean, he's 36. He's a grown man, and he's on his own now. So he was 18, I think, when I started handling these lead paint cases as part of my liability investigations as an insurance person. So I don't necessarily know. He's never been tested for anything. That was when I first started learning. I mean, he was grown when I first started learning that attention deficit disorder. I think it's, 10 years ago when the Children's Hospital did this study about violence. It was about 10. They found out violence was connected to lead paint. So I don't know necessarily that my son has any issues. I handled a lot of lawsuits where people were claiming their kids had attention deficit disorder. They went through what they called chelation disorder, what is it, the chelation or chelation they used to do to get the lead out of their systems. I don't know that worked. They used to test them with hair samples because it would be in the children's hair. So it's been, like I say, 32 years, and I don't really know necessarily what my son has. Grown guy, you can't really, I'm not his mother anymore. I can't really get him to the doctor and have him tested for anything. But I'm just an example of the fact that this has been going on for well over 35 years. And nobody's really done. I'm just excited to see someone talking about it. Over the years, I've tried to tell people. I worked at a ministry in the inner city for 10 years, and I would talk to different people about lead paint, but nobody really pays attention until you get a couple of ladies on TV talking about it.
All right.
And I've seen billboards occasionally. I've seen flyers occasionally, but over 30-some-odd years, it's very little has been done, and the government's not done anything. Nobody's made anybody take the lead out of their buildings.
All right, thanks for your call. And can you make these landlords, is there anything, she's right, you can't force them to do it right.
Yeah, you can.
You can't.
I want to tell Carol one thing first. Carol, the fact that your son had a high lead level and he's 36 now, we have learned over time. When my son was little, I live in a house built in 1911. When my son was little and we were doing rehab stuff in the house, the level at which there was concern was a 40 micrograms per deciliter of blood. And I never even thought about it at that point because 40, now we chelate them. We do what you said, we put them in the hospital and do chelation therapy. So the fact that they didn't worry about it all those years ago with your son, it was because we didn't know as much as we know now. Studies have been done over the years from 1980 on to just recently. We now know that children's blood lead levels can be as low as 5 micrograms per deciliter of blood, and that there's damage done that early. But we didn't know it when your son was little. So don't beat yourself up about it. No one knew how low it went before there was a problem. Now, about what we can do.
Yeah, currently there are state laws on the books They came into effect in 2004. They're very strict. They come into effect when a child has a blood lead level of 10 micrograms per deciliter. The homes a full inspection is done by a public health lead investigator who is a person that's both a sanitarian, which is a health inspector, and a risk assessor. So it's a highly trained person, takes the gun in, does a full inspection, takes dust samples, issues orders to the landlord, which are then enforced through the housing court. Okay. Cincinnati was one of the first cities in the whole United States to have a local law about really the very same thing, about lead paint on the walls. But just recently, we've really stepped up enforcement. We have our own prosecutor for the housing court, and the landlords absolutely must take care of the problem. And once it's a problem, once you've received orders, it absolutely must be corrected by a licensed lead abatement contractor, which makes the job terribly expensive. Previous to that, when we're doing the proactive work that we talked about, doing the work before the child is lead poisoned, you can do the work with what's called a lead-safe renovator, which is a person who's highly aware of the hazards but doesn't have to have as much training. You can get your own training. You can do this training. It's 8 hours of training. It's only $25. It's hosted by the health department. We highly recommend that for anyone doing any work in their home. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and come back and tell you about the screenings that are coming up and wrap things up as we talk about lead poisoning, lead paint in your home. We'll take a quick break and come back. Don't forget, got to tell you about hundreds of jobs available, and you could get one of them. Back in a moment. We are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. I've got Charlotte Kleinhaus, Cythia McCarthy with us this morning, and we're talking about lead paint in your home. And there's some free screenings coming up. I want to tell you about those free screenings before we let them leave here. Tell us about where are those free lead testing?
The one that's on Friday, November 14th, is at the Kemper Heights Early Learning Center. It's at 924 Waycross Road. It's from 8 to noon. That's a Friday morning, November 14th. Then there's another one on November 21st, the following Friday, again, 8 to noon. It's at the Rex Ralph Center, Mount Healthy City Schools. That's on Adams Road, 1310 Adams Road. Those are both free screenings. If your child is between 9 months and 6 years of age, this is a free screening. If it hasn't been done by your pediatrician or you don't have health insurance right now, this is a good time to go.
Now, Cythia, there's a pamphlet that's out there, and you encourage everybody to get that?
Yes. Anyone who lives in or rents a home that's older than 1978 should have received this pamphlet either from your landlord or from the person who sold you the house. You should also get this pamphlet if you're a tenant every time work is done in your home. You should get this from the landlord. You should get this from contractors who come in to do work in your home. I'm just afraid this is not being passed out as it should. Everyone should actually have a stack of these at home, and I don't think they do. So if you don't have one of these, please call us at 357-7420, and we'll be happy to send you this and some other materials and answer any questions that you have.
And we've also got some photographs of what lead paint might look like in your home. Could we show those?
If you live in an older home.
Quick? And like you said, you'll find this in an older home probably?
Most often, because lead-based paint was not produced anymore after 1978, so it's not available now. But if you live in an older home and things have you haven't had the income or the desire or the ability to repaint as needed. So that's a photo of a pillar on a porch. If you look at it, it crackles off, and it has that alligator skin look. This is a stairwell, and when you walk up the steps, your shoes hit the actual step and then the riser, so it wears off that paint. Then if it's lead-based paint, you're tracking it everywhere else that you go throughout that house. This is a windowsill on the outside. They used lead-based paint a lot on the outside because it was so resistant to mold, mildew, sun damage. But as time goes past and it wears out and crumbles off, then it's on the windowsill when you open and close that windowsill, and children put their hands there to lean out and look. And it can be on the ground outside your house. So if your house is older than 1978 and you like to plant your own tomato gardens and stuff, put them about 6 feet out. Don't put them right next to the house.
All right. Well, that was a little girl there.
A little girl
with the
that
chips.
the health department, one of the health department people captured that picture when they arrived to do an inspection. Wow. And that's been in our photo archive for quite a while.
All right, well, I hope people got the information today, and it's always a pleasure having you two on with us, talking about this
Thank
lead
you.
paint. Very important for the kids and parents. You need to take heed to that. You don't want your child growing up with lead poison,
No.
because it can cause serious problems throughout their life.
Right.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Yes.
One more plug about our grant money, the
free
free money.
Free money, free money.
Free money, yes. Make sure you call us at 357-7420 to get more information about this free money that you might possibly qualify for to clean up lead hazards in your home, either before a child gets lead poisoning or if your child already has lead poisoning. Either way, we've got a program to cover that for low-income occupants of housing here in Cincinnati.
All right, want to thank you, Charlotte Kleinhaus, Cythia McCarthy from the Cincinnati Health Department. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for
you,
having
Lincoln.
us.
We'll appreciate that. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and tell you about hundreds of jobs that you might be interested in. Coming up, we've got Bernadette Watson to tell us all about those jobs right here on Lincoln Ware Live. We'll take a break, and we'll come back. Oh, I forgot. We're back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. And I forgot to put my coffee down. And so we'll just, go ahead. How about that? All right. Sometimes you forget and you're back on. Anyway, we are live here, Lincoln Ware Live. That's live program. You see, if this was taped, we could have just said, hold on, let's cut that and do it over again without the coffee cup. But when it's live, it's live. Bernadette Watson, how you doing?
I'm fine, Lincoln. Good morning.
It's
How are you?
always good to see you. Now, I've been teasing people, telling them we've got hundreds and hundreds of jobs available. Tell us about them.
Let's say it's thousands of jobs, Lincoln.
Oh, my goodness. Tell us about 'em.
Cincinnati is a big area. We are currently working with the U.S. Census Bureau to do the 2010 census, which will come up April the 1st. The forms will actually go out on March the 15th.
2009.
No.
They go out. Okay.
2010.
Okay, they don't go out. Okay, all
They
right.
go out in 10. But in
Okay.
the process of doing that, we have to have the people to count and to recruit the people in the city in order to reach Mayor Mallory's goal of 379,458. And there was an undercount. The U.S. Census Bureau, what we do, I'm the partnership specialist, and I coordinate all the elected officials, the local and state officials, and community organizations, faith-based organizations, in order for them to assist us in getting those. But we need people to count. We need people to coordinate that, people to pay the people that are counting, and to do the training and the testing. And over time, Cincinnati and Hamilton County is a big area. I'll be working additionally with Hamilton County to get the outline because of urban development. Our communities have changed.
Yeah.
And the people from the West End and over the Rhine, they are scattered throughout our city, so we need to find them and hard to count. But there are two positions. One of the positions, they are going to hire another partnership specialist, and that is one of the main positions we need to get going in order to do a lot of that recruitment. And our website will be online, but what I wanted people to know that there are only two people who have applied for that partnership specialist for the Cincinnati area. You have to be a U.S. citizen and live within the Cincinnati area, Butler or Warren County, Claremont, in order to apply, because we want people that are familiar. Because when people go out into the communities, we want them to look like the people they're going to be counting, and people are very inhibited by the government, as we know. But other than that, there's a media specialist position, and on our website, all of the information about that. It will tell you the qualifications. You can download the information. The other jobs that I'm talking about are office and field staff. Now that is where we get into all of the positions of administrative assistants, office clerks, recruiting assistants, the enumerators, crew leader assistants, and field operations supervisors. And these jobs, starting with the office clerk, they pay anywhere from the minimum, which is $8.25 for the office clerk, but the other positions start at $12.25 up to $18 an hour. There's a 30-minute test that's required, basic math that you can actually, you can actually take a practice test online when you look up the job, or I'll give you a number and they can tell you how to get to that. That number, just to begin with, is 1-866 861-2010. But the part of it that's so important, Lincoln, is that we hire people from those communities who we're trying to count, whether it's the Hispanic community, African American communities, the Latino, we have an Asian population and a Somalian population. So all of those people, we're wanting people to knock on doors that look like us. You know, I mean, if somebody knocked on my door, it's like, you know, not going to open. And then again, people are so inhibited. But it's so important for our communities to understand that the correct census count means big dollars. It's for the state, right. For the state of Ohio, it's $300 billion, not million, $300 billion annually that federal government, if you are not under count. The other thing is we're at risk of losing political seats, congressional seats, because the census tracts and the census is taken according to census tracts.
All right, if you've got questions about the jobs, when they start, you've got questions about pay and qualifications, give us a call right here, 381-3838, 651-3838. Now, some of these jobs will start in early 2009. Is that correct?
Yes,
early
the
next
jobs
year.
will start, right. We do our first large round of for the enumerators. The recruiters start immediately in January of 2009. But our first address canvassing, where people will go with handheld machines, and we will make sure that we have correct addresses, and people are in that. So if you happen to see somebody at your house pointing
to your address,
to your address, that's what they're doing. They're not trying to check you out. People have to understand that the census is confidential. The information does not go out.
A lot of people, I don't want the government knowing too much about me.
72 years, 72 years. But the hard to count, as we call them at the Census Bureau, HTC, those are the people who are less likely to fill out their form, and the lack of dollars are the people that they really affect.
Right.
That
because
loss of
people
money.
will get those forms in the mail. What happens if they don't fill them out?
Well, what happens if they're not back by end of April? We'll be knocking on your door.
Somebody will come to you.
We call that mail back response. Whatever, however many. The post office is very helpful, of course, with the federal government. And we have Mayor Mallory. He is the task force chair for the census for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. So he's developed what we call the Complete Count Committee already, and Donna Jones-Baker and Charles Graves are the co-chairs. In the recruiting, we have to find testing sites, we have to find training sites, and we're asking nonprofit and faith-based organizations to join us. The other thing, we do go to corporate companies to help us with the promotional and marketing piece. The national campaign for marketing will not start until January of 2010, but we'll start you'll see billboards, you'll see it at the stadiums, and that's a part of the work that the partnership specialists along with the media specialists. But those partnership specialist positions, and I'll give you my cell phone as well, but what you need to do is get those in right away. Those two positions will be filled and started January of 2009, and those salaries actually can pay. If you have government experience, they could pay up to over $70,000. Yes, they're full-time, part-time jobs is what they call them. And we have a local office here where we have 6 managers who are working to get that training and testing done, and so it can actually be done here. But the 866 number, you can call that number and they will tell you. All you have to do is say, I'm interested in testing for a census position in the Cincinnati area, and they'll give you all of the details that you need.
All right, that phone number again is 866-861-2010. That's 866-861-2010. We've got it up there on the screen. If you've got questions, we'll take your calls right now. Do we need to take a break first, or can we take some calls first? Okay, we'll take a break. They said take a break first, and then we'll come back and answer your questions on how you can get the jobs, how much they pay, where you go, where you test, things like that. If you've got questions, call us up. We'll answer them right after we return from these important messages right here on Lincoln Ware Live. We've got Bernadette Watson with us, and she'll answer your questions right here. And when we return on It's 38. We are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program, and we've got jobs, as the we always like to copy off the Baptist ministers when they always say jobs. Okay, and that's what we've got right here for you. Jobs with the U.S. Census Bureau, and these are good government jobs. And if you're from Georgia, government jobs. So let's go to Valerie. Valerie, you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Fine.
What's your question?
I'm sorry.
What's your question?
My question is this. I woke up this morning and tuned into your show and saw the lady talking about the jobs. My question is, when did she say the job started? Because I didn't see from the beginning. And when did the job start and where are they?
Okay, hang up and we'll go over that again.
Right. The jobs are actually in the Cincinnati area. And when I talk about the Cincinnati area, it means like Mount Healthy, Forest Park, and we include Hamilton County in that as we do it. The jobs will actually, we are doing the testing now. It's according to which position you're talking about. The enumerators that I mentioned, they will not start until address canvassing, which will be in April of 2009. So we are testing because you have to do the application, and the federal process is not always the fastest process, but you have to go through the clearances and get your applications done. The partnership specialist job that I mentioned initially and the media specialist positions, they start January of 2009. So we are finalizing that, and they will be closing December the 17th, and we hope to have someone on board by then.
All right, let's go to Jackie. Jackie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm okay.
Good morning.
My question is, do you have to have any specific backgrounds? And I'm be interested in the canvases. Is there any special qualities or any limit to who can do this work?
No, ma'am. What you have to do is take the 30-minute test that I mentioned and complete the application. That is it, because we do full training and full testing, and you are paid for training.
So we need to call that number.
Call that number, let them know that you are interested in taking the 30-minute test for the Cincinnati area. They will tell you when the test is. We usually do our testing that is convenient for people that's on the bus line or somewhere that's convenient for them to get to at our office, but it would be left up to you, and when you call that number, they will give you the information and you can make the decision. We do a lot of the testing at the Urban League, which has been a very good partner for us, as well as the Super Job Center down on Central Parkway.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would be interested in the canvas part. So you said there's no stipulations and no necessary high school education and felons and all of that?
Nope, they don't have it. And all the qualifications, just as a FYI for you as well, if you have access, you can take a look at all of the duties and everything that it entails. Go to www.census.gov/Detroit. I work in Cincinnati, but we are a part of the Detroit region, which is actually Ohio, West Virginia, and Michigan.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're
Thanks for your
welcome.
call.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's go to Rodney. Rodney, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Can you apply if you have a felony?
You can apply. We do not discourage. It's according to what type of felony it is, because when you do your application, there is a clearance, but it is not that you would not get the position if you do have a felony. It's just according to what type of felony it is. Good morning, Rodney.
Good morning, Mama.
Okay. All right, let's go to Carmia. Carmia, how are you?
Pretty good. I can barely hear you. Good morning to your guest, Bernadette.
Good morning.
My question is, are there any evening positions, and are the tests available for evening if people have daytime jobs?
Right, we are scheduling for that, and as well in working, we will be additionally having different shifts. In doing the enumeration and the counting, what we have to do, we have to go to the people when they're available. We count homeless, we'll be doing the bridges, transitional housing, so there are opportunities for you to even work the part-time jobs in the evening as well. But if you call them and let them know that you're interested in evening testing, they do have sometimes available. I just couldn't tell you right now what they are, but the 866 number would have that information.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your call. We're here with Bernadette Watson with the U.S. Census Bureau, and there's going to be jobs, and more jobs opening up here in the area, Hamilton County, Butler County, Warren County.
Yes.
And you could qualify for one of those many jobs that will be available. Let's go to Chris. Chris, how are you?
Obama.
What was
it?
I don't know. Oh, he said Obama. Okay.
Oh.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning. I was just calling because I just tuned into your program, and I guess my question is, how many jobs are actually available?
There will be, what we're doing is creating a pool. There will be over 1,000 jobs. The actual number that our regional director asked us to strive for is 1,054. Because we have to get people tested and get applications in prior to when the positions begin, we try to keep a pool of people because people may get another job. There may be other circumstances that they're not able to stay on board. You know, some people just don't work out and they have to be dismissed. But that is the number of jobs and recruiters and crew leaders and enumerators that we're looking to reach.
Okay, now I may have to go out to your website to look at this, but do you actually have office jobs?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Do you have
I may have to go out to your website
We're
to
having
look
some
at
strange
this, but
sounds
do you
on the
actually
phone
have
here. I don't know what's
office
going on.
jobs?
Yes, there is an office clerk position, a recruiting assistant, an administrative assistant, and the office operations supervisor. Those positions would be at our local office here in Cincinnati, but those are the jobs. But that's on the website as well.
All right, let's go to Marina. Marita? Marina?
Hello?
Yes, you're listening to your TV. Turn your TV down.
Yes.
Because there's a delay
Good morning,
there.
Miss Bernadette and Lincoln Ware.
Good morning.
I'm calling about the media position that you have available. Can you tell me what that consists of?
Right. The media is one of the positions that will be more of a full-time job, and it will consist of relationships and the promotional and marketing piece of what we need to do to get the information out. And there is some criteria for those two positions, but that's online as well. They do a federal employment background check and application for federal employment. You work with our local media, with any of the community organizations to help them get promotional trinkets, as I call them, or items that they have with their names on it, and encouraging people to do the census. Work with your partnership specialists to make sure that the elected officials and presentations are done within that. But that information for the media specialist, there is step 1, 2, 3, 4 of how to go about doing and filling out that application and all the information that it entails.
And the pay range for that job is?
And the pay range for that job is not bad. It runs from anywhere from 56 to 73 according to what pay grade you're at.
From 56,000 to 73,000, and that's not bad at all. Thanks for your call. She's listening to the TV. Mom?
Yes, I'm just wanting to call and make a statement that is very important for people of color to get in line, and as of today, for those positions, Obama is in charge.
Okay. Okay, I don't know whose mom she is, but she gave
Yeah.
the name of Mom.
That's all right.
Teresa, how are you? Teresa?
Yes, how you doing?
Pretty good.
I'm fine. I'm Leroy Jones' daughter. How you doing, Lincoln Ware?
Okay.
I was just wondering about the people that has ex-felon. I'm an ex-felon, and where we going to get some jobs at?
Okay, let Bernadette answer. Thanks for your call.
What you can do is you call the number. We do not discourage anyone from taking the test. It's according to what kind of felony it is. And that is the reason, because we would be liable for people going into people's homes and talking to them. But if it's a number of years, I think it's 5 years if the felony is more than 5 years old, then you should be okay as long as you pass the 30-minute test. But again, even if you have a felony that's less, it's according to what it is, and I do not discourage anyone from taking that 30-minute test and go through the application process, because you never know, and it doesn't hurt to try, and they don't discourage it at all.
All right, let's go to Joanne. Joanne, how are you?
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
I was just wondering, is these jobs permanently?
No, they're not permanent. They just run through what they call tours of duty, just like they do in the military. And the tours of duty, they run usually through October of 2010 after the census, because we have to have all of the data and information into the federal government by December the 31st. And there's a very rigid timeline of getting this done.
Thanks for your call. Let's go to Karen. Karen?
Yes.
You have a question?
Yes. Good morning, Lincoln, to you
Morning.
and your guests.
Good morning.
I'm calling just to, if you don't mind, if these are government jobs, so does that mean that the taxes are being taken out for the government, or is it just regular taxes that's taken out for the city?
Well, there'll be city and federal
payroll
taxes.
They're payroll taxes just like any other tax. You pay into your Social Security and the same way any job that you have.
Okay, and the other one, your field supervisor, how much does that pay, and what's your qualifications for that?
I'm sorry, I didn't
Field
hear.
supervisor.
Okay,
how
the
much
field
does that pay?
supervisor position, it runs anywhere from $13.75 to $19.50, and the field supervisor position is for the Cincinnati area, and you oversee the activities of the field personnel, and you schedule and administer testing of job applicants for positions in the office, and just complete appointments for crew leaders and others that are out in the field. So it's more so overseeing. But again, if you go to the website or call the number that I gave you, you can get all of the details and the duties and qualifications for any of these positions.
All right, let's go to Erica. Erica, how are you?
I'm fine. Good morning. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good morning.
I have a question for Ms. Bernadette, please. Actually, I was on the line, and I was wondering also, as the young lady had called prior, to see if this is a long-term position or if it's only during the duration of the census. But since you did answer that question, what I would also like to know is, would there be a possible opportunity after this portion of the positions you're talking about are over to possibly be hired to another position with the Census Bureau?
Yes, there is. I have some colleagues that I work with out of Detroit that have been through 4 censuses. They do evaluations on your work, and you are always eligible to apply. And if you've had previous census experience, it always helps to be able to move on and find something else. And people think that maybe the Census Bureau just works within that time frame of getting ready for the census, but during the decennial, the 9 years in between, there's consistent work at the regional level to be able to be hired. And they have some very good positions. I work with one lady that started off as an enumerator, and she is now the administrative assistant to the director, and she's making a nice piece of money too.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for your call, Erica. Okay, we got a few more minutes left. Let's try to get through with all the calls. Frank, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
All right.
I had a question for you all. You was talking about felonies and getting jobs, and I have 4 of them, and I'm 46 years old, and I haven't been in trouble since like '97. But I cannot find a job nowhere.
Okay, you got 4 felonies?
Yes, sir.
What type of felonies are they?
There was a couple of them for drugs, and I did have a burglary charge.
Oh boy. Drugs and burglary charge.
Yes, sir. But I mean, I've been straight since '97, and I mean, I can't even get a job at McDonald's.
Well, sir, that's almost 10 years. And again, what I would say to you, I mean, there are a number of felonies that you have, but again, I would not discourage you to take that 30-minute test. I just would not. If your record has been clean since then, I would not discourage that. We are trying to get people who look like the people in their communities, and many of our hard-to-count communities, people have some of the same issues, and we're trying to give everyone a fair chance.
All right. Hey, thanks for your call. Let's go to Tiana. Tiana, how you doing? Tiana, you got to go. We got to move on. Let's go to Robert. Robert, how are you?
Pretty good, bro.
What's going on?
I want to know, will they hire you, like, if you're getting disability, Social Security, and you're allowed to make so much per month? Will they hire you?
Yes, sir. Now, I'm not sure. We do have some waivers. Now, I'm not sure about Social Security and and disability, but we have gotten a waiver from the federal government for anyone who is on public assistance. They will not lose any of their public assistance during the time that they're working on the census. So that would be in addition to whatever they make. If you call, let me give you another number, and this is for everyone. It's area code 313-799-1402. If you call that number and give me the information again, I will be sure to get that information and I can pass it on to you.
Give that number again.
It's 313-799-1402.
Now, the number you want to call for the test and the information on the jobs, 866-861-2010. That's the main number.
Yes,
you need
that's
to
the
know.
main number. And please call as soon as possible. We're reviewing applications. And believe it or not, it takes a long time to find 1,000 people to do the work.
Yes, yes.
I mean, and people, the economy is at a state now that I would hope that the Cincinnati area would really be willing to come out so our neighborhoods can be counted.
And I think just hearing this on the Lincoln Ware show, Lincoln Ware Live, you're the first to really get all this information.
Yes.
Because this is Bernadette's first hit in the media.
Yes, it is.
So you got a head start just by watching Lincoln Ware Live. See what happens when you watch this show? You get a jump on the world.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Bernadette.
Thank you,
I'll have you
Lincoln.
back again for
Yes,
sure.
please.
We'll definitely get you back in here.
All right.
We'll take a quick break and then we'll come back and wrap things up here with the talk of the town and telling you what's going on right here on It's 38. We'll be back in a moment. We are back live. Lincoln Ware Live is the program. And coming up at noon today, great gospel performances. I always like watching that. They have some of the best gospel music you ever want to hear on those. That's at noon today. Rebroadcast of this show tonight at 8 o'clock on WOTH Channel 25. Don't forget, Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on WDBZ. We'll see you next week right here on It's 38.